Okay, let's call this meeting to order at 4 o'clock. Adoption of agenda. So recommendation that the agenda of the Gravenhurst Trails Committee meeting dated September 11th, 2025 be approved as circulated, amended. So can I get a mover? Dina, seconder. Heidi. All four? Okay. Disclosure of pecuniary interests. I'm not seeing any. Approval of minutes. So recommendation.
Sorry,
Oh, did I go?
adoption of agenda?
Adoption of agenda. I thought we just did that.
Oh, never mind.
Approval of minutes. So recommendation that the minutes of the Gravenhurst Trails Committee meeting dated June 12th, 2025 be approved as circulated. Can I get a mover? Go Wendy. Seconder. Heidi. All four. Okay. We don't have any deputations, so unfinished business. So affiliate members and organizations. I'm gonna say there's no update on this because I was supposed to contact some committees outside of here. I actually wanted to bring up something which I was thinking, because I know the original meeting that we had, we were discussing bringing, not the original one, but there's the Probus Club and there's another seniors club that we were trying to get involved. And I think that the actual, I forgot the Trails Club, I think it's just the Trails Club, that we discussed last meeting. I think that that's kind of like outside of what the original intent was for this.
I think it was some women, wasn't it the hiking?
Oh, was it Hikers Bay? Okay. I thought it was just, because I know that there's just like a Trails Club that meets, so I'm sorry, that's my bad. So, Hikers Babe, Hiker Babes. Okay. I'll get into contact with them and see if they want to be affiliate members. Heidi?
Is that working? Oh, there we go. Oh, that's loud. I wondered if nothing else, it's not really affiliate members, but the more eyes we had on the trail. So if we had a special sort of poster or something, like a reported poster that we could share with people, aside from regular, because we have a reported. But if we were to like share that from the Trails Committee, hey, if you see something on the trails, here's where you report it. Instead of, because I think the idea of having affiliate members was people who you're using the trails that they could report things to us. But if nothing else, if we could ask them, hey, if you see something on the trails, here's how you report it.
So I think the initial intention of this one was, I love it, 100%. I think the initial intention of this one was to have different perspectives coming in for this committee. I love the idea of having, I think we discussed this before as well, having either something on the website or something that's actually on the trails as part of the signage, where people can submit, work order forms or, anything like that. But I think the initial intention was for the different perspectives. So I'll contact Hiker Babes, get that going so that they're willing and able to be involved. Does anyone else have anything else for this item? No? Wendy? No, okay. So let's move on to urban pathways. From what I remember last meeting, I think, Kyla, you were putting together a list of some sort?
Yeah, I think at the last meeting we there wasn't really an update to report, but prior to that, from our previous meeting, both you and I had both started sort of collaborating on some lists. now that summer's over and season's kind of slowing down, I'd like to return back to that. Is that something, what I'd like to have is, again, if that's something that you're interested, or if we could make sort of work groups that we could have, if there's certain people that are interested, that we could work on these things outside of meeting times. I do know, we'd like to, through the town, identify and make a list, a comprehensive list, and have approved and formal urban pathways. And then we would list them, map them, which I know you have the ability to assist us putting them on the GIS at the district. We'd like to sign them in town and then create a standard for the maintenance of them and can have that continue on. So it would be an ongoing project or portion of this committee.
Tina?
I just want to clarify, wait, is that working? Yeah, I can hear it, but it's like red. When we were talking before, we were sort of talking about connector paths, one that, but would we also consider a path that's just kind of informal? So I'm thinking of down where the district's doing a whole bunch of culvert work down by, on past Lawrence Street down, I don't know what that neighborhood's called. Do you know what neighborhood I mean? Yes, down in there. So down in there, there's a path, I think the neighbors just keep it up, that goes kind of back into a wetland and just sort of does a little loop. Would we consider trying to partner on paths like that? Or are we thinking of the connector paths that connect two neighborhoods that everybody uses but maybe isn't formal? I just wanted to get the scope set on the scope there.
So there's a lot of the paths have, not a lot, the ones that we're talking about, they have basically smaller gaps for people to walk through between the lots. If those informal trails that people use, I know there's a lot of them in Muskoka and Gravenhurst, we would have to get, and correct me if I'm wrong, agreements with those landowners to use those trails, to use them as real trails, which I think we could do. It'd be more difficult, but if we get buy-in from the landowners, then that's something that, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, that we could do. Heidi?
I thought we were talking about connecting trails, not so much what you're talking about. Sounds like some people are created their own trails on municipal property. Like we did talk about the one that's sort of in behind the railroad tracks by Shoppers, for example. We talked about the one that's in behind, what's it called? It's the Shores. There's one that goes from that area to the Shores. There's one, I think those were the ones that I was thinking that we were talking about, is how do we make those accessible, more accessible and usable, and again, I guess legalize them in some sense, rather than them just being trespassing? Is that, I mean, whether or not, I think they're probably, some of them might be on roadway, road allowances of the town and things like that, but I think that's what we have to figure out. I think we should establish maybe a couple people who are interested and who do the walking to decide where they are. I think we start with a list. I certainly can come up with some as well. And I think, I mean, liability is everything, and I think some of them probably have to be evaluated whether or not they should not be open at all, because they're not safe for people, and people are trespassing.
Yeah, that's true. If they're not safe, then they're not safe. But another point of that is that there's some of the trails that they look nice on paper, but you would have to get the buy-in from the landowners. So I think we have to think a little bit on both sides of the coin here. Yes, we have the Oriole one. There is a pathway that's not owned by any landowners. That's a small trail, which we can potentially use, and I think that's part of the list that we were talking about a while back. And then there's other ones where it's the same thing, but we would have to have buy-in from that landowner to actually use that, because there is another section further down where it's owned by a private resident. Yeah.
So I guess the next step is who wants to take that on?
Tina? And I wasn't saying you should. I'm
No,
just-
I put my hand up, I'll work on that. Like, that's something that I would be willing to sort of work on a list, maybe a, you know, what's being used and then a wish list kind of thing if we wanted to get really, you know, fanciful and reach for the stars.
Yeah, that sounds good. Do we have, we have a list going right now, correct? Is there any way we could get that for everyone so that we can just, you know, we're not doubling up any work?
Yeah, totally, because we've started that list, so we could circulate what we have and then keep that as an ongoing list. I think to clarify, what we should start with, like, as urban pathways would be those connector paths that say go between one block to the next, where people cut through, and it's the road allowance, but there's not actually a road, so it'd be like from First Street to Catherine's, or Caroline Street, or like you said, behind the shores off Hahn Drive. And those ones, and then other ones where if we know that there's user-made trails and they are like part of it, could become part of a trail, then that would be a recommendation that we would investigate, and then we could make that recommendation that perhaps that section, depending on where it is, the feasibility, the ownership, the liability, that sort of stuff could be considered to be incorporated into additional trails or connectors between trails. Urban pathways are more of like an active transportation type thing where people are just, this is your shortcut to get from here to here instead of having to walk 3 blocks around. But we could put that list together. Again, I know Craig started one, I started one, so if join that and then put it together. But if we have like one person or 2 people that are the main, then other committee members could submit their ideas and suggestions to be added to that list.
Eddie?
Could I make a suggestion that we have the list ready for the next meeting so we can talk about it and maybe look at them on a GIS map and where they are? So once we all get back together, then we know where they are and we can pick and choose which ones we want to focus on. So we can make that a subject for the next meeting.
So yeah, if you guys can send me your lists, and then I'll make a big master list, and I'll email out everybody and ask them to add anything to it, and then I can bring it, and I don't know if I should do I can prepare some static maps, or if I would want to just go on GeoHub and just point to things in the moment, but you and I can touch base on that, and we can put that on the agenda for the next meeting and make some decisions.
Yeah, that works perfect. I just want to make sure that there's no, because you mentioned that there's other staff that are looking at this. Like, we don't have any legal or anyone else that would have to, we can take, basically, we can take this list and then we could give it to, like, you, for example, and then where does it go from there? Do you have any ideas on that? I just want to make sure that we're not, getting ahead of ourselves when there's a lot more back-end work that needs to happen with the town.
No, it would be these would be the committee's suggestions. So we'd put the list together and identify these, and then we would take it to the infrastructure department and make that proposal, and then that's where you get approvals or not approvals, and because that's the department that's ultimately responsible for maintaining, and would also have that background information too of what's legal, what's like feasible, and that sort of stuff.
And then as part of that, would it be helpful if I, like, once I have the list, like, go and have a look at all of the sites and be like, this one looks like would be fairly easy to do something to, or do you want to just make the list?
It would be my experience, that's the line that would be the line that Craig is worried that we would cross. It's not up to us to evaluate them and decide. It would be up to us to make a recommendation to the department and then essentially to council for consideration of spending any money or upgrading these. So I would say, I mean, you certainly can go for your own, but it would be, we're just making the recommendation, yes.
I just wonder in terms of us making a recommendation, would it help, like if someone's here talking and they've never seen it, like, would it be helpful if I snap a couple pictures so that when we're making recommendations about what we think we would like to recommend staff, council, whatever, move forward on, that we are making recommendations with as much information as possible? Like I could try something like that without like, evaluating it, but
Yeah, Tina, I think that'd be really good because, I mean, I went through Google Maps, like Street View, and some of them were back from 2015. The only problem is that some of them are, like the GIS, some of the lot lines aren't exact. So we'd have to kind of get like a wide angle lens. And then we'd be taking pictures of people's houses potentially, so we don't want to do that. But having updated images like that, I think that'd be useful. Yeah. Oh, there's another point that I wanted to bring up. Because we're discussing this, there's a few things that we brought up in the last meeting about potential signage. This is part of new business. I just want to put a pin in this one, just because we have that in signage under new business. So just want to keep everyone's minds on that. Okay, does anyone else have anything for the urban pathways? No? Okay. So work plan. So update of work accomplished.
Okay, so just an update, since we've formed this committee, I just wanted to do a brief overview of everything physically on the trails that we've done. So we have officially gone out 10 times on the trails. There's been different varying amounts of people attending each one. We did do an initial one on the Leo Trail. That was like our first, let's go out and just learn what to look for and for inspections kind of thing on a trail. We did the group trail care day. And we did that on the Trans-Canada Trail in Coopers Falls, starting from the north end. That was part of a grant that we got through Trans-Canada Trail, which provided us all with nice matching t-shirts. So when we are out on the trails, we're highly visible and easily recognizable. Along with brushing and maintenance on that trail, we also got a new bench from Woodmill of Muskoka. It's one of the new style that's made out of 100% recycled materials, guaranteed to last for at least 25 years. So we did carry that in to the first bench location, which is on a really nice beaver pond overlooking a beaver pond. It's on a nice granite outcrop, and that replaced the wooden bench that was there and past its life cycle. We spent a couple days out on the Peninsula Trail, brushing and limbing and widening up the trail there, identifying chainsaw and tree work needed from staff and arborists, and sign maintenance. We did that also on the Han Farm Trail and the Cashy Barrens Trail, and we have also updated the where there's an intersection at the Leo Trail, and then we have to have barriers and delineators. We reinstalled those, gave them a nice renewal there with some fresh barricades and signage and snow fencing. We also, while we are on the Han Farm Trail, we relocated a section of that trail that was in a low-lying hemlock grove, which was wet sometimes of the year. So we managed to relocate that back up onto the higher ground on the rock ridge. So, yeah, that is the update on what we've done so far.
Heidi?
Well, it sounds like a lot. Like it was so much fun that it's hard to imagine we got so much work done. But no, that's a pretty impressive list considering, summertime's busy and people have things to do. And so give ourselves a pat on the back. So thank you.
I think Wendy and Val, I think they get the extra big pat. And Heidi?
So scheduling of fall, winter?
And that's on the agenda because that kind of sort of ties into this, where we've left off on our regular maintenance, just like weekly maintenance outings. So it kind of did tail off there at the end of the summer, just with all the different obligations and activities that people are engaging in. So I just thought with this change of season, that we should have a discussion amongst ourselves to determine what dates and times would be good to continue on a regular maintenance schedule. So if you could open that up.
Okay, so is the times working still for most people, or is it we're kind of going off? Is that?
I think the Wednesday at 4, I think the 2 days a week is too ambitious. So I think the Wednesday at 4 was working for most people. We did at one time have it at 4:30, but then some people were saying 4 was better, you know, and especially now that it's getting dark earlier. So for me, the Sunday's a write-off. Like, I mean, and I think for a lot of people, it's family time, right? And I always say families first. So I think it's a lot to ask people to commit one of their valuable weekdays. I mean, if they want to do it, you know, if they're out for a hike and want to take some notes, as we said, is more than, you know, allowable. You can, you know, make notes while you're out walking by yourself or with a family member, and bring it back to Kyla. But the work should be done in a group so we all are safe and things like that. But I think Wednesday works. I think 2 days a week is pretty ambitious. Especially, I mean, nobody was coming for the Sunday, right? We had the one big one, and then, you know, like I said, people have things to do on the weekends.
Yeah, we can turn to the Wednesday. I find that 4 o'clock for myself, it's kind of difficult to get out just because I was done at 4 o'clock work-wise. But if we're set on, you know, X amount of hours or hour, then people, anyone can join it at any time, then yeah, for sure, then that would work. But I think you're right. Sunday is kind of, it's a weekend. I want to enjoy a weekend. Yeah. So yeah, no, that works. We can turn it to 1 day a week, and if Wednesday still works for everyone, then let's continue with that. And we can always update it and change it whenever we find, you know, it's gotten Wednesdays have gotten busy for everyone, so we don't really need to decide right now. But but changing it to the 1 day a week, I like that idea. Anyone else?
Yeah, and I don't know if it needs to be decided here. We could do like a poll because there are some members missing. I know for myself personally, would like to ask if Mondays or Thursdays were available for other people. Just at least for the fall, I have something that has come up that potentially I could be doing on a Wednesday night. So I just wanted to check in with everybody and see what everybody else's schedules were like.
I'm not stuck on the Wednesday. I'm just saying that I think I think we chose Wednesday because it was 3 days away from Sunday. So, you know, I don't think anybody's stuck on anything. So Kyla, why don't we look to you to send out a little poll and see what works for everyone. We're not decision-making. We'll approve it and also we know this is a moving target, right? Like, this is a working group just as much as it is a committee. So I think we have to be mindful of when people can actually do the work. So can we ask you to do that? Do we need direction for that, or it's just direction? No, okay, great. Thanks, Kyla.
All right, that sounds good. All right, so I think let's move on to upcoming project planning.
Okay, also from that conversation into the next one, I do have a couple, similar to the Trans-Canada Trail project that we were working on, a couple things that would be a bigger project, mostly boardwalks type projects. But I don't think we would be able to accomplish on an evening. Like you said, it's getting darker earlier. So I was like, those would be potentially a Saturday day. But ideally, or similarly, we could potentially like put out a poll and see if, and try and schedule bigger projects like that. Of course, we can also do them in-house, but I just want to put that out, like if committee members want to be a part of that, we could make bigger days of it and have like a full-on like work crew kind of day. Some of those include continuing on where we installed the bench on the Trans-Canada Trail. Beyond that, Beaver Pond where the bench is, there's a boardwalk that goes through the marsh there until you get into the Cashy Barrens up on the Granite Rock. There's a bridge and a boardwalk on the Cashy Barrens Trail. There's a little section of boardwalk that we need to create through the Hemlock Grove on the Chamberlain Trail. And then there's some other things identified in the master plan that we could work on. But again, they would be more than just our regular maintenance days. So again, I could just email that out and then we could come up with a date that would work for the majority and go from that. Does that sound good to committee?
Heidi?
Why don't we look at trying to get one done this quarter? Like, maybe that's how we do it. We meet regularly and whoever can go for the working, and we decide quarterly what works for people, and then and in the same quarter, the 3-month period, I guess, then we also pick one project to do, and it is on a weekend. So it's not the whole 4 months. It's one day of 12, and, cast that net and see what you can catch. Because I think, burnout happens, right? So, but I think suggesting, because we're talking about upcoming project planning, I would think that one project a quarter, that's 4 a year. That's pretty good. So I don't think that we could be accused of not doing a lot of work if we're doing 4 somewhat big projects a year, so.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, if you send out maybe another poll or something saying another weekend that works for everyone for something like this, and then same email, we can all pick. We can all figure out the times that we can go out and get them all done, then yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. Yeah. Okay. All right, perfect. That's it for our unfinished business. So let's go to new business, GPS tracking.
So following up on what Heidi was saying about how we can individually go out and hike trails and then report back. So not only do we want to report back like deficiencies, but again, as mentioned in the master plan, or even in our terms of reference, the committee is to help assist the corporation by recommending actions that we could take on the trails. One of the things that I use on a regular basis while I'm on the trails too, same idea, I do an inspection and then bring it back and relay it to staff to identify where there's issues that need to be addressed. I was going to ask, and if anybody here uses any sort of GPS app on their phone, and or I could tell you about one that I do, and I didn't know if that would be something of interest. So if members, and not everybody has to do it, but if you're willing to download an app on your phone when you are out going for a hike on any trail at any time that you would like to, you could do a little GPS track and then just put waypoints wherever there's something that you want to identify, and then you can just right from that app email the GPS X track right back in, and then that's easier to be able to say and we can share it with each other even, but it's just an easier way to be able to easily put that on a map and be able to know where those locations are. So it was just a suggestion that I wanted to put out there.
I'm just curious what the app is.
The one I'm currently using is called a GPS Tracker, but then I was just looking for it on the Play Store, and I don't see it available to be downloaded, but that was, again, another reason why I wanted to talk, to see if anybody else that was here currently used one or not. And just looking at different ones that were recommended. One that I found was called Locust Map. And I haven't had a lot of, I did download it, and I haven't had much chance to play with it, but it does seem to do the similar stuff where you can just put it on it, and you don't have to have the screen open or anything, and just leave it in your pocket, and as you go, it tracks you. But then if you wanted to make note, you can pull it out. It even allows you to take a picture, and then that, like, geolocates it right to that track. So, yeah, Locust Map, it's A-GPS. Tracker is the one that I have now that I currently use. And there's also one that I use or have used in the past. Sorry. I just got a new phone, so I don't know where my apps are. But I could share that information, and then if anybody is willing to, we could talk offline about like how to use it and some instructions and that sort of thing. So.
Yeah, that's really cool. I really like that idea. That makes it so much easier just to, you know, show where the trails need work, and there's so many things we could do with that. Like, that can be part of the signage, even like, hey, you want to help out with the town, with trails, then download this, and then you potentially do that as well. Yeah, that's really cool. I'm gonna give that a try after this meeting and see how it goes. Yeah, yeah. It was, sorry, there's a GPS tracker and Locust Map?
Yes, Locust, Locus map.
Okay, I'm gonna download that. All right. Yeah, we could definitely use that for, like, signage. We could use that for a lot of things. If we could get that working back with you, so that we know where anything needs work, then that's really good. I had no idea that was the thing. Yeah. Anyone else have anything for this? Want to chime in? No? Okay. Let's go to signage.
Okay, so I just wanted to give everybody an update to let you know that there is a bit of a plan in beginning to update and add signs. So one of the things we want to do is replace, like right now there's currently the blue diamond trail markers on our trails. We'd like to update those and have our Town of Gravenhurst and our Gravenhurst website that leads back to our maps on them. I have been working with marketing department and economic development about that. As well as the Trans-Canada Trail, I have gotten a shipment of their signs with the new, because they've changed their logo too. So there would be a bit of hands-on trails marker maintenance on the trails. But I would also, like, similar to the urban pathways, like to involve committee members in recommendations for like internal marking systems. So we have like consistent signage across the board, and these would be like smaller signs where you'd put in intersections or where there's different features or directional challenges or, you know, whatever the case might be. So not only identify, like, maybe everybody could help identify where some additional signage needs to go, but also just to have a member or two that could be like, is interested in working on like design and like a compilation kind of thing of what those signs entail. Another issue with signage is just like gaps in the trail. So like the Trans-Canada Trail runs through town, and the idea of the Trans-Canada Trail is to link existing trails with the downtown core and the wharf, and then back through some of our parks and at the other. But we've got trail signs on the trails, but then those gaps between where the trail might have to go down to a sidewalk to get on the boardwalk, like then there's gaps there. So just to help identify where those locations are. And again, just bring that back, whether it's part of urban pathways or signage in general. So I just wondered if there was anybody here that was interested in assisting with that.
I kind of like that stuff. If everyone here is good with it, I mean, it doesn't just have to be one person as well. It could be a couple of us, but I do like that kind of thing. So I'm more than willing to throw myself out there for that. And we could also include some of the other members that aren't here, like, in an email as well, just to include them, see if they're interested. Yeah, I know that there's a lot of the signage is, it's like the markers. That'd be, yeah, that's good that we can get that going. Heidi, did you have your hand up? Okay.
And so are we finding that, people are on the trail and then they get out into the sidewalks and they're not quite sure where they're going because there's no signs once you get on the sidewalk? Is that kind of the issue?
That's just one instance of where there's signage needed. Like that would be where there's gaps, because there are spots where the trail comes out of the bush or the forest or wherever and then goes. So that would be one idea, or one location where there might be gaps in signs. Other examples of like internal signage would be like some spots there's trails where they veer off and you might not know whether I should go left or right, but we could have a sign there that's designed to say, hey, doesn't matter which way you go, they both just curve around and meet. So that would just be like one example of a symbol we would need on a sign. Or sometimes if you get into an intersection, you want to go left or right, but I don't want to keep going, which one takes me back to a trailhead? So it'd be like an exit to trailhead sign. So come up with ideas of like what signs are needed in the trails and where.
So I used to live near Wilson's Falls and Bracebridge, and so I went down there all the time, and it's like, there's not a loop, it's all these, like, you go this way and come back, and you go this way and come back, and how many times I felt like I was a tour guide down there. Every time I was down there, I was telling somebody, oh no, that's gonna take you up to that street, and that's gonna take you up to that street, so, or people would get up to Cedar Lane, and then they're like, they don't recognize where they are, and they don't remember where they left their car. I had to drive people back to their car sometimes, so that would be great, like, especially if you're out in a trail, because not everybody has their phone with them, or not everybody uses their data to track. So yeah, if it would say, you're gonna end up at, Muskoka Beach Road, or you're gonna end up at, Muskoka Road North, then we just have to learn what road names are in town, because I don't know that, but I think that's a great idea. That would be really helpful for people.
Yeah, they're really good. Even if you have your phone, I have to go left up there instead of right. I was curious, the funding that we got, can we put that into the signage at all, or is that completely different?
That little bit of funding that we had was specific for that day, so that covered, yeah, that covered what we did that day. It was only, I think, $1,200.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because I was looking at the funding section of the Trans-Canada Trail, and I saw that it was October 28th of 2024, they opened up funding streams for 2025. So I think I know it's September. So if there's potential for new funding, that could potentially be opened up using 2024. So in theory, there could be funding opportunities for the Trans-Canada Trail, through the Trans-Canada Trail any time from now to maybe end of November, potentially. So is that something that we could look into to offset some of the costs on that?
Yes, definitely, and totally welcome anybody suggesting, if you know of any sources. I know Tina had mentioned she knew of one, and if you've seen where those sources are, we can definitely use all the funding we can get. So if again, any committee members helping identify funding to go towards this, that would be great.
Okay, I'll flip over. That's 2024 one. But yeah, that'd be great. I mean, if we can get any funding opportunities like that, then let's use them. Why not? Gina?
The one that I had talked about was it's Northern Ontario Heritage Foundation, NOHFC, and now, because now Muskoka has been included in this designation as Northern Ontario, so they have like an infrastructure But it is like a cost share, like you don't, like it's like up to 50% or something like that. So whatever would happen, we wouldn't get the full amount. We'd have to go to town council and say, you know, we can get this, we can apply for this funding, but would it be in the budget if we were successful, kind of thing, so.
Heidi?
I would say the only thing with that is, I mean, for those sort of funding things, the town does apply for them, right? So we would, often when we're asked to write letters of support for matching funds for other organizations, we make sure that we're not going after that money as well. So especially because it would go through the infrastructure. So I think if there was a project that we identified, then Kyla would go to the department and say, this is something, but, I mean, if we're gonna go big, if we're gonna go to the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund, we're not gonna go for, I mean, I don't mean any disrespect, but we're not gonna go for signs, we're gonna go for something big, like that's, they give away, I think, a lot of money, so, that would be if we could identify a really great project in trails and the town was interested in pursuing it, then I think that's a great idea. And I also know that there's the TD. TD always had a funding stream. I don't know if it was for urban trees or for what it is. Maybe it could expand to trails, but TD Bank always had a funding source.
Tina?
But yeah, it is important, because then you're effectively competing against yourself, like with that fund, so you want to make sure that it's the best one for the town and not just throw your name in the hat kind of thing.
So I'm almost thinking, because I didn't hear of the TD one, I also saw there's like a Polaris one for trails, I think. So I'm almost thinking maybe we just, everyone get any funding sources that they know of. Same thing, we just put them all together and then see what we can do with them. And I'm also thinking, because that Trans-Canada Trail one, they opened it up for a thing, there was about 6 different projects that we could potentially do or apply for. Because it was released in end of October, and I don't think we're set to meet again until March, I think. Maybe we open up or come back maybe end of November or early December, just to see if it opened, because this one did close by the end of 2020, or by the start of 2025. And I'm just using this as a guide, so.
Well, I think Kyla, knowing about it, can, follow it and see if there's a project or she thinks we could be the least bit successful. I mean, I don't think we have to meet for her to pursue that, right?
Yeah, we don't have to meet. I was just thinking, because then we could put something to council or whatever, then we could say, hey, we're looking to do something like this, which may have a more likelihood of, being accepted for this money.
Just doing like a quick Google search, there's also the Trillium Foundation and Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund, so Google will do the, AI does the work for you. There's options.
So, yeah, I do like the idea of putting together a list of all the potential funding sources. I'm not going to say we're going to apply to them, because obviously we're not going to apply to all of them. That'd just be ridiculous. But well, we don't have to decide right now if we want to have another meeting before the next one, right?
You don't have to decide now.
We can just,
If you're thinking of a date, like an ad hoc meeting,
yeah.
you don't have to
Okay.
decide right now.
Okay, perfect. So if we do want to meet when more funding opens up, not saying we do, but if we do, then we could just decide when it does open, if we want to. Yeah, perfect.
Just let me know.
Yeah. Yeah, I do like the idea of putting together everyone's different funding sources. So. Okay. Anything else on this one? Nope. Oh, great. So, going to next meeting, TBD. All right. Oh, right, sorry. For adjournment, can I get a mover? Wendy, a seconder? I don't know. Tina, all four? All right. That is it.